Okay, Mark meets Daniel Bonner, Global Chief Creative Officer at Razorfish. Hi Dan.
Hello.
Can you give us a very quick summary of your career to date?
Yes, well, I went to college, graduated from college in Edinburgh in the mid to late 90s, then worked some freelance work, worked at a design agency in Edinburgh for about a year before moving to London and sort of getting into bed with all the AKQA guys. That had been going for about a year, so kind of, I guess, one of the sort of founding employees.
What number are you, do you know?
That's my number 6.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely we weren't in double digits then. And then about 15 years there before leaving and joining Razorfish.
So what was the name of the first design agency that you worked for?
Taburn, McElroy and Coates. They were kind of a bit of I guess you'd call them a design agency who did kind of annual reports, kind of corporate material, but the internet and digital was something that was starting to happen, and they kind of wanted someone to bring some kind of I guess vitality to some of the things they were doing, and someone fresh out of college was someone who'd recently been exposed to that, and so could bring it to some of the work that they were doing. So
like a lot of juniors who decide to move to London for a kind of challenge and a bigger career, potentially, you joined AKQA, who I'm guessing back then didn't really have much of a reputation, or did they?
Well,
how did you hear of them and how did you get the job?
Funnily enough, it was through, it's not what you know, it's who you know. A friend of Ajaz Ahmed, who's the chairman, obviously, and founder, he met me at a social. I met the friend of Ajaz's party. He met Ajaz a few weeks later and said that he'd met this designer who was incredible, even though he hadn't seen any of my work, and kind of put us together and said, oh, maybe we should meet. So I went down to London. I was going down to London anyway, took my portfolio on the off chance, met with Ajaz, showed him the work. I was very impressed with, again, a very small agency with even then had some incredible clients, Virgin and BMW and what have you, even back in the day. So again, while their name was not, they weren't famous on paper, they clearly had a good track record for what they were doing.
And what was your job title when you joined?
I think it was designer.
And when you left?
Chief Creative Officer.
And how many people were working in the agencies? You joined as number 6.
Yeah, I joined as number 6, and then by the time I left, I think we had over 400 people across 3 offices in Europe, which is where my remit was.
And then a year later they sell for 400 million and you definitely don't feel sick.
I definitely don't feel sick.
So fine, you've come to Razorfish, and what's the main aim, what's the challenge here?
The main challenge here is to, I think for any chief creative officer or someone in a senior leadership position creatively, is to kind of, keep the standard high, do incredible work, move our clients' business forward, and really also consolidate. Razorfish has made a lot of acquisitions of independent agencies across the globe, 18 offices around the world. Really to kind of try and unify those offices with a philosophy and approach to creative, how that blends with media and technology to kind of do the best work.
What's the best bit of career advice you've been given?
Work hard and be nice to people.
And do you feel like you've always done that?
I think so. I don't think anyone needs to scream and shout to get things done. I'm always kind of more quietly confident, I think, is the way to go.
And what's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you in your career today? It has to be something that's happened in a pitch or when you've been on stage at an event talking or conference.
I was at Buckingham Palace once.
As you do.
Pitching for a piece of business. And I possibly asked a stupid question, which was, are there any other brands that you consider to be like you? Which kind of, in many ways, I think there is only one kind of royal family and regal household, and I guess they probably didn't align themselves with Coca-Cola or BT.
So when you asked that question, you felt really stupid straight away?
Yeah, I think most of my team made me feel quite stupid for asking it.
What was their answer, just out of interest?
They just shuffled uncomfortably in their seats and said, "Oh, we might have to get back to you on that one."
And then you thought, what have I just asked?
Yeah.
What was your position then at this time?
Oh, I'm an art director, maybe, something like that.
Okay, so trying to prove yourself still.
Yeah, kind of trying to represent the whole brand creative thing, ask an intelligent question, but it didn't come out quite as I intended.
If you could work for any agency on the planet right now, obviously apart from Razorfish, who would it be and why?
I think I would probably work for my own agency, and kind of, I think I've never been one for kind of, in many ways, holding any heroes or any kind of competitors in high esteem. No discredit to those people, but I think that I've always been utterly confident and had conviction with the time and the space I was in at that time. Otherwise, you shouldn't be there. And I think that what would be, incredibly exciting would be to be in utter control of, kind of one's own destiny, and having your name above the door, I'm sure would focus the attention. And and I think that would be a pretty exciting thing to be doing.
Dead or alive, who would you want to set an agency up with if you were to ever do one?
Dead or alive? Do you have to be a creative?
Doesn't have to be anyone you want it to be. Could even be a fictional character.
Yeah, I think Batman would be pretty good.
Okay, I'll take that as your answer. For you, what's the best thing about agency life?
I think we get paid to do something that's incredibly fun, and it's to come up with ideas and try and provoke people to do something or think in a certain way. I think is a and being creative is an incredibly lucky thing to be able to do. There are millions of jobs a lot worse than this on the planet.
If you could have any superpower in the world, what would you choose?
To be able to read clients' minds.
That's a corporate answer. That's a corporate superpower. I'll let you have it though. What are your interests outside of work?
I think, famously, anything that burns petrol has been. I'm a bit of a petrol head, so anything which moves reasonably quickly seems to be the sort of things that I like. Cars, motorcycles, that kind of thing.
And do you drive?
I do.
What car do you have?
I have
something that doesn't move very fast.
No, I do. I have an Audi.
Okay. I'm guessing it's an R8.
No, it's not. I've got 2 kids.
Fine. Okay, it's a sensible car. If you weren't in this industry, what do you think you'd be doing?
I honestly don't know. I think I would be. I would like to think I'd be in some kind of design or creative business. I think maybe product design would have been something I would have loved to have done. I think again I'm very jealous of someone like Frank Stevenson, who is the head designer at McLaren. He was previously at Ferrari and BMW, and I think that again possibly my passion of cars is to design a car, something that gets made and used by people every single day. Must be a very rewarding kind of, from a designer's point of view or a creator's point of view, must be a hellishly rewarding kind of thing to see come to life.
If you could turn back time on your career, I know your career is nowhere near over, so I don't want it to sound like that, but over the years, if you could have done anything differently, what would you have done, if anything?
I don't think I would have done anything differently. I think I've been very lucky. I've got to work with some really interesting people, got to work on some amazing clients, seeing some amazing things, being able to visit factories and production facilities and be inspired by a lot of things I've got to work on and with a lot of people I've got to work with. So I think I've probably been one of the lucky ones, and hopefully that'll continue to be the way. So yeah, I think I'm very fortunate. I don't have any regrets, and I think whether it's look or design, I've always managed to kind of be somewhere where I wanted to be.
Is there one brand in particular that stands out that you've really loved working on?
Yeah, I think some of the underdog brands are often the ones that maybe are less obvious. It'd be easy to talk about Nike or McLaren or those big, well-known brands. But I think we've had a lot of fun working on brands like Yell. Kind of how do you make a business directory interesting? And I think that also gives you the opportunity to create work which actually cuts through and makes a lot of noise because no one's expecting it from a kind of challenger brand's point of view. So, really enjoyed working on things like that. And I also take a kind of delight out of working on those brands where people say, oh, you can't do anything good with a brand like that. It's either middle of the road or it's a high street brand. And actually, I think that's where the opportunity is to kind of really make a difference.
What advice would you give people who are looking to get into the industry today?
I think there are no shortcuts. You've got to work hard. You've got to be prepared to put in the hours. You've got to love what you do. You have to be incredibly passionate and driven. It can't be about riches or job titles. It has to be about focused on doing work that you believe in or that you want to create and want to push yourself to kind of learn new things. Because again, I'm still scared because I turn up some days and think, God, I don't know enough about that or that, and I've got to learn. And I think to ever think that you know enough is not something that that people should ever expect to do. So it's a constant learning curve, which is actually what's again quite invigorating about certainly the digital and the technology revolution we're kind of experiencing right now. So yeah, working hard, putting in the hours, but also being passionate and driven and understanding that you by no means know everything at any point.
When you joined the industry, did you ever imagine that you'd end up being a global creative director of a big networked company?
No, in short. I do think about this. I think if someone had described that to me, I would probably not have known what even that job was when I first joined the ladder. But I don't know whether it's creative. I think I used to think quite short term when I left college and started. Just getting a job was like in itself an achievement.
Which I think is still the case these days.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's about applying yourself and demonstrating how much you want to progress. Work, by, as I've said, it's some of the basics: working hard, listening to people who know more than you, being prepared to learn. And I think those are the fundamentals of anyone who wants to get into any business. And I think it's more so. Like I said, there's no way to fast track it. There's no way to shortcut it. It's Malcolm Gladwell talks about his 10,000 hours, and I tend to agree with him. But there is only you have to put in a certain amount of legwork to kind of achieve any type of success, and more so in this industry where everything's constantly changing and evolving and moving on.
How hands-on are you in the recruitment process these days, even at your level?
Yeah, very hands-on. I'm always keen to kind of ensure that either if we are talking with colleges or new groups of pools of people and talent that we can tap into, always very keen to make sure that they're aware of what I'm looking for and ultimately what the business will be looking for through the different levels. I obviously still review CVs. Or people
of what levels do you look at?
Yeah, I mean
CVs from a certain level and above.
I think so. I think more from a kind of anything where there's a point of leadership. So I guess you'd be talking associate creative directors upwards. I would always have a point of view. By playing the role I do, I end up being a focal point. So I'm often the first point of contact. And even if I distribute that opportunity to someone else in the business, I will, just by my own curiosity, I'll kind of want to make sure that we're meeting and talking to interesting people, because that's part of the exciting thing. When someone starts a journey with a company, it's an exciting moment in their careers, but it's an equally exciting opportunity for us as a business as well to maybe do something we haven't done before.
And are you equally responsible for the creative talent in all of Razorfish's offices around the world?
I guess, practically speaking.
Because obviously there are cultural differences, expectations differ from country to country, so how do you make sure that there's a level of quality and consistency in your hiring process?
I think we set, again, we have a philosophy and an approach, at Razorfish to make sure that we're always, we're an innovation business, we're always looking to try and do new things, and in order to do that, then, I have to give autonomy to those leaders in those markets, in those ECDs, in those offices, to be able to hire to a certain standard. As long as they know where we're heading with our work and where the standard is, then they should know what type of people we need to hire. There's two principles that every successful creative business needs to have, and these are the two absolute pillars of anything, and that's the highest standards and the best talent. Even with no clients, if you have the highest standards, and I mean the highest standards, and the best talent, then the phone will ring and you will win a piece of business, no question. So you have to have those fundamentals. There's no point having loads of clients that bankroll the agency, but if you've got, if your standards aren't where they need to be, then it's a very short-term focus. So, for me, I have to kind of, share the ambition with those creative leaders in each of those countries and each of those agencies, and then I have to allow them to make that decision of who to hire against that standard we're setting.
Fine. Let's move on to a quick fire round.
All right, I thought we'd already done that. I failed it.
Can iron or D&AD pencil?
D&AD pencil.
Olympic gold medal or an Oscar?
Olympic gold medal.
The brightest person you've worked with?
Matthew Tregus.
The most creative person you've worked with?
William Lidson.
And the best looking person you've worked with? Jazz Ahmed. You love me for saying that. I'll let you have that. Creatives or suits?
Creatives.
Money or happiness?
Happiness.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Degree or no degree?
Degree.
Art directors or copywriters?
Copywriters.
Retained work or pitch work?
Ooh. Retained work.
Web or mobile?
Mobile.
Independent agencies or networked agencies?
Networks.
Outsourced production or on-site production?
I can't say both.
Yeah, you can say both.
Yeah.
Don Draper or Roger Sterling?
I've never seen one episode of The Thing with Don Draper in.
Right, massively let me down. And lastly, twist or stick?
Twist.
Thank you very much.